Yeah, hello. I'm sending out a message to the school community platform. First and foremost, welcome, welcome. And I want to let you know a couple things about this platform. Number one, you are in such an incredible good position and a good spot for you to be able to learn, understand, and most importantly, fully apply the things and the information and the knowledge that's going to be on this platform to apply it to your life, to start to deliver to you what you've been really looking for in this law of attraction, law of creation, law of vibration kind of area. The problem that I see with most, if not all people, when they understand this is they get very excited about it. And then they pick up some bad information or they pick up some misinformation, and those are different. Or there's some pieces that are missing from their understanding of how it works. And that misunderstanding creates confusion. And that confusion creates a vibration which won't allow what they want to come to them. So the purpose or the mission, if you will, of this platform is to deliver certainty to you. Because when you really stop and look at it, that is what's missing here from your ability to apply these teachings to your life and have them working is certainty. In fact, if you look at it, the only reason you're having trouble with this is because you don't have any certainty on how it works. So I'm going to record and produce a series of small instructional videos, knowledge-packed, information-packed videos that will allow someone to understand how this works, number one, fully conceptually, with a full understanding of how it works and an understanding of how to apply it to their life to produce the results that they're looking to have. And most importantly, to clean up and clear up all of the uncertainty and the non-clarity that people experience in this law of attraction work. And I want to start as just with a general piece for you about this, which is extremely important and valuable to understand. Number one, you are making this so much harder, so much more difficult, and so much more confusing than it is. And for sure, that confusion or that overdoing it or overthinking it or over trying is causing most all, if not all, of the problems that people have with the law of attraction. So I'm going to start it with this. You are as good a manifester today as you're ever going to be. You were born a great manifester. You don't need to learn how to manifest. You don't need to learn how to ask. You've been asking and you ask all day, every day when you run into contrasting experiences in life. You ask for the opposite of the contrast you're experiencing. What's missing for you is that you don't believe that it could be so easy that all you need to do is learn how to feel good and allow those things that you want to come to you. But I'm telling you here and now, the only thing you need to do is practice learning how to feel good, or what we call get into alignment, and allow those things that you've asked for to come into you. Why do I know that with so much certainty? I know that with so much certainty because I know that when you experience contrast in your life, the way this works is you ask for something opposite of what you're experiencing. For example, if you want to take your friend to dinner and you go to check your bank and you don't have the money, you ask for more money. When you want to go take your sweetheart out to dinner and you don't have the money in your bank, you ask for more money. When you go see this house that you like and someone tells you it's $1.6 million, you ask for more money because you don't have that money. So you're constantly asking for the opposite of what you're experiencing. And the moment that you ask for it, the larger part of you, the non-physical part of you, which is we're going to talk about that part of you quite a bit in this program, it becomes the emotional expanded version of you that has that extra or additional or more of what we're referring to as money that you wanted. Okay. So what is there to really understand here is there's a lot of conversation, and this piece, this module now I want you to understand is about you comprehending the difference between third density reality and fourth density reality, because it's a kind of a chic conversation going around and it's completely misunderstood by most people. When we're talking about moving from third density to fourth density, one of the things that we're talking about that happens is it's a transition where a human being goes from learning through suffering and pain, which is how people learn in the third density or third dynamic, to learning through understanding the creations that you're responsible for creating, which don't contain suffering and pain. It contains curiosity and playfulness and co-creation with other beings that you've pulled in to co-create with here while you're on Earth. So know that when they're talking about third density versus fourth density, they're talking about the vibrational frequency at which you're vibrating. So the higher the frequency, the less dense you are. The lower the frequency, the more dense you are. So from transitioning from third density to fourth density, which is the journey you're going to have to make if you're ever going to have any hope of being successful at living a life and creating a life that you desire, you aren't going to get there living in the third density. It's not possible. And the reason it's not possible is because there's too much pain and there's too much suffering in that density. And that pain and that suffering creates a vibration which holds what you want away from you and won't let it come to you. So get the idea that everything you want, everything you've asked for, and you've asked for so many things, you can't even list them all if you started now to the end of your life. But those things that you've asked for aren't coming to you because you're keeping them away. And the things that you don't want that are holding on to you and staying in your life, you're holding them here. So it's really important that you understand this, that everything you want is trying to make its way to you, and everything you don't want is trying to get away from you. But you are holding all of that stuff either away from you or onto you by the beliefs that you have about yourself and about your life and about your world that surrounds you. So third density transition from third density to fourth density, the reason it becomes less dense is because you're vibrating higher on the fourth density than you are the third. The third density has got almost little or no, you can just call it none, no interactiveness or no creativity where you're relying on your inner being or your spirit or your soul. The third density is done almost primarily exclusively with the mind. So when you're in the third density, you're thinking and figuring and thinking and figuring and thinking and figuring and thinking and figuring and thinking and figuring, and you're using your mind to try to discern and distinguish things in your environment that will help you get what it is that you think that you want. So you know, this is a dimension or a density that's filled with a bunch of effort. It's filled with sacrifice. It's filled with this notion of grinding. It's filled with the notion of hard work. And it's important to understand that we're not condemning this way of creation as wrong. We're just saying there's a much easier way and a much more joyful and playful and fun way than that. The other piece that I want to say before I finish that about the third density and the effort that's required to make things is when you exert effort and exhaust yourself trying to create things through the third density way of thinking, meaning you're going to think and figure and think and figure, you even when you receive things or when you get things, which you can create things in that method, but even when you get something, it's unfulfilling. And most especially what normally happens to everybody creating in that density, they get something and they're unfulfilled with it. And also they're normally really exhausted or worn out because it's an effort dimension, it's an effort dynamic. So what happens when a person goes from the third density to the fourth density? Fundamentally, they stop learning through suffering and pain and they start learning through creation and creativity and co-creation with other beings. It's a much more fun experience. It's a much more dynamic experience, and it's a much more playful experience. If you want to know who lives almost predominantly in the fourth density, look at the children. They're almost exclusively in fourth density. So as you make this transition from third density to fourth density, one of the things that you will find out is you're going to have to begin to quiet your mind. You're going to have to learn how to quiet your mind through meditation, through prayer, through dance, through whatever it is that you focus your attention on, instead of focusing on this kind of chattering, this mind that's kind of constantly working you. And when I say to you, this mind that's chattering and constantly working, you might be saying to yourself, what mind is he talking about? Well, the part of you that just said, what mind is he talking about? That's what I'm talking about. It's extremely clever. It's extremely covert. It makes you think that it's got everything under control and it's running things. It's made more bad calls in your life than you could ever imagine. If you look at every bad call that it's made and you were a boss at a job, you would fire it immediately. You would just have it not have any more involvement in your work. But you're not in touch with this larger non-physical part of you, which is coordinating everything, everywhere, with everyone, from the position of where you are to the position of where you want to be. And this part of you is already aware of where you are and where you want to be. And most importantly, it knows how to get you there. So when you hear spiritual conversations, when they talk about somebody being on their path or not on their path, you cannot get on your path in the third density because your mind isn't equipped and doesn't know enough of the possible things that can happen to get you moving in the direction that you need to go. It's at best a guessing game with maybe 3 or 4 or 5 possible alternatives in a world of unlimited possible alternatives. That's what you're up against. When you move into the fourth density, you now are allowing, by listening to how you feel, tuning into more how you feel, you're now able to let this larger non-physical part of you, this soul, this spirit, this God, this Christ consciousness, Krishna, Allah, Vishnu, whatever you want to call this part of yourself, it's the larger non-physical part of you that knows everything about everything, and it knows where you are and where you want to be. And the way you tune into that part of yourself and take guidance from that yourself in that way, from that part of yourself, this higher non-physical part, it should begin to pay attention more on how you feel. Because the way this larger part of you communicates to you is in how you feel. When you are experiencing things in life where you're moving in a direction and you don't feel good, that is your larger part of you letting you know that this is not the path. And so how this shows up for people can be a little bit confusing at first, but it leads to complete and total certainty in the end. And it goes like this. You begin to think less and feel more. As you begin to think less and feel more, you start to notice that there's a trend or there's a little bit of a direction that your feelingness is taking. It's moving you away from drinking and partying on the weekends, moving you more towards feeling and enjoying nature more. That could be one of the examples. It's moving you towards something that you've been doing that's not been in your best interest towards what you want to create in your life. And it starts to just slowly, by sending you more feelings, more feelings, more feelings. It'll send you good feelings when you're moving in the right direction. It'll send you rough and negative feelings when you're moving in the bad direction. That's the simplicity of this work. So if you reflect back to how I started this conversation, you are making this way too difficult and thinking and figuring 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 and just exhaustion. So at the end of the day, I promise you, you're not exhausted from your job. No chance. You're exhausted from this thing, just nonstop, 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 nonstop. Don't do that. Yes, you can. No, you can't. Yes, you will. No, you won't. There's an incessantness about this mind, and the transition from third density to fourth density is a releasing of the thinking about your life to entering into an experience of a feelingness about your life. We're moving from thinking to feeling, and that's the major piece for you to understand. The last thing I want to say about this, and I will be talking about this on the Wednesday night calls interwoven through every message, This is the most important thing for anyone that's come down here and taking the physical body, that's experiencing themselves as a human being. The most important, the most powerful thing you can do upon your journey as you're going is make the transition from third density, thinking, figuring, into the feeling dimension of I don't need to know why this is right or how this works because my mind's not capable of figuring it all out. But the larger non-physical part of me understands all of it, and it communicates to me through how I feel. And I'm moving in this direction because every time I move in the direction of how I feel, my life gets better, even when I don't think I should move that way or can't figure out why spirit is moving me in that direction. And I also notice that every time I think I've got things figured out and I start running in the opposite direction and it doesn't feel good, I start forcing things, I start manipulating things, and all of them end in disaster. So that's one the other thing that you can count on is third density creation of thinking and figuring most all the time ends in disaster. Fourth density creation through following the communication of the feeling you're getting from your higher being is the pathway that normally takes you to where it is that you want to be. Why? Because that larger part of you already knows. You were just never told that the way it communicates with you is how you're feeling. So begin practicing this. Be easy on yourself. Be kind to yourself. And understand that when you're moving into the third density and the fourth density, there's going to be some fear that comes up because that part of your mind is so used to being in charge and running you around and wearing you out that it's going to wonder what's going on while you're not listening to it anymore. And that can create some fear because you're moving into a new expanded version of yourself. So keep it playful and keep it light, and I'll see you at school.